Hi everyone, and welcome to Module 1.5C, Sleep Loss Disorders and Dreams. Here's your vocab pause if you need. So the amount of sleep that we need is important. It matters. It affects everything. Our brain keeps an accurate count of our sleep debt, and you might think, okay, so I got 6 hours, 6 hours, 6 hours, Monday through Friday, and then you're like, it's okay, I'll catch up on Saturday and Sunday. Well, if you're getting 6 hours, you're like 4 short if you are a teenager, which means that you are under the age of 20, or even possibly you're 20, you probably still need that much. So you're short about 4 hours every single day. So that's 20 hours. Are you going to make up 20 hours over the weekend? Unlikely. Not just get 10 hours and you'd have to sleep an additional 10, but you'd have to sleep 40 hours of the weekend, okay? So that's not going to happen. Sleep is supposed to be 1/3 of our lives. We sleep 1/3 of our lives. It's important to our bodies. It's necessary for survival. If allowed to sleep without being woken, most adults will sleep 9 hours. A study of U.S. Navy and National Institute of Health experiment on the benefits of unrestricted sleep found that 63% of adults who get adequate sleep report being very satisfied with their personal life. Another study with 909 working women and the study found that sleep matters more than money. So unless we were talking about people who are living in the line of poverty, then sleep is more important when we're talking about your well-being, your happiness, than money. So it's so important. So if you look over here, this is just a list, and it tells you down below how to score, just to tell you to determine your sleep deficit score. So what are the effects of sleep deprivation? So number one, depression. There have been many studies on this. There was a study of 15,500 people aged 12 to 18 years old, found that those who slept 5 or fewer hours a night, their risk for depression was increased by 71%. They're 71% risk higher than their peers who get at least 8 hours of sleep. There is also an effect on our body's hormones. So these are hormones related to obesity. Ghrelin. So for ghrelin, it's our hunger arousing hormone. I want you to think of a gremlin in your stomach, right? The gremlin is always hungry. It's growling. Your stomach growls. Go with me here. So ghrelin is the hormone telling us we're hungry. And so that is increased when we are sleep deprived, and decreased is leptin, which is our hunger suppressing hormone. I don't have a little fun mnemonic for that. Cortisol, I'm sure you've heard of this hormone perhaps, like related to our stress. It's our stress hormone, and that stimulates our body to make fat. It's an evolutionary, like, protective, so cortisol is released after fight or flight. So it's protective, and that increases. So studies find this link to obesity and a lack of adequate sleep. And that's just one factor, that it's affecting our hormones. It also suppresses our immune system. There are so many interesting studies done on how just one night of bad sleep kills your immune system for that next day. So this experiment found those who averaged less than 7 hours were 3 times more likely to develop a cold than those who were sleeping 8 or more hours. So if you think, why do I get sick after final exams? Part of that is because you're probably not getting enough sleep lately. You go back to school, you're staying up later, you're getting up earlier. Now I'm getting sick? Yes, because you're killing your immune system by not getting enough sleep, and your immune system is unable to fight off those things it's coming in contact with. So the effects of sleep deprivation, the deprivation in terms of reaction times, well, it slows our reaction times. 20% of Americans driving accidents are due to fatigue. And there's a bunch of studies done about, like, when we change the clocks, when we go forward an hour, so people lose an hour of sleep, there's an increase in accidents that morning. There's been studies to look at later start times for schools. There are 2 schools in Virginia with 2 different start times, so that's a good place to, like, look at some correlational information. And the school with the start time 75 to 80 minutes later than the other had 25% less car crashes. Many disasters that have occurred, like significant ones you might have heard of, some of them listed here, they have occurred after midnight. This is because our body is meant to be sleeping. Some people are like, well, I work a night shift and I just train my body to get used to that. Your body never really, like, yes, you can find ways to make that easier for yourself, but it's never actually really good for your body. And there's a lot of like negative consequences to our health from staying up all night. So psychologists have a helpful treatment for all of those things that ail you, and that is sleep. If you want to improve your memory, increase your concentration, boost your mood, moderate your hunger, improve your immune system, just feel better every day, feel happier, do better in school because your memory is better, lessen your risk of fatal accidents, the list goes on and on. You need to get adequate sleep. I think it's like a trend in our society where we're like, oh, you got 5 hours of sleep. I wish I got 5. It's almost like we're trying to like one up each other with like how little sleep we had. But if we were talking about like eating healthy or going to the gym, people are much more like boastful about doing the right things there. But they're posting all over about going to the gym and whatever, right? But no one's really posting about sleep. It's not like trendy, it's not flashy, but guess what? It is more important than what you're eating and what you're in your exercise. I'm not saying those things are not important. Hear me out. Sleep is the most important. Sleep is king. Okay, so now let's talk about sleep disorders. So first, insomnia. This is when we're having a reoccurring problem, falling asleep or staying asleep or both. This is reoccurring. One night is just like one bout of like having trouble sleeping, but this is a reoccurring state. 1 in 10 adults have this, or 1 in 4 older adults. It must be persistent, like I said. You might be worrying about the insomnia once you kind of have this problem for a little while, and that's just going to actually make the problem worse. It's going to make it harder to fall back asleep. Quick fixes like sleeping pills and alcohol are not actually helping you because they're not putting your body through those correct sleep stages. They're kind of forgoing some of those important sleep stages. So your body's not actually getting the restoration to your physical and mental health that it needs with those sleeping pills and alcohol. Next one, narcolepsy. This is a sleep disorder where the person suddenly falls directly into REM sleep. Usually lasts less than 5 minutes. It affects 1 in 2,000 individuals, and researchers have discovered genes that cause it in dogs and humans. They've also found that it's correlated to a lack of orexin, which is an important neurotransmitter for alertness. So there is medication that can help people because we have made that connection to orexin. The next one is sleep apnea. This is when the person repeatedly stops breathing while they are sleeping. So you might hear them snoring. Loud snoring is like a symptom, doesn't mean anything necessarily. Like a big snore and then a pause and then like a breath. That is what sleep apnea sounds like. The person doesn't actually gain conscious awareness, and they might do this like 1,000 times in a night. But what it's doing every time they do that, which could be constantly, is it's interrupting their sleep cycle. So when they wake up, even if they've been sleeping for 9 or 10 hours, they feel exhausted because our body, again, needs to go through those sleep cycles. And the person with sleep apnea that's untreated, this person's using a sleep apnea machine, so they're treating it, untreated, they are going to be exhausted. And it leads to all these other problems as well. So that's why they say it could be very damaging to your health because it's going to cause all these other like heart problems with high blood pressure or all these other things. Next, sleepwalking involves so walking while you're in non-REM 3. So your body isn't paralyzed like it is in REM sleep. You're in non-REM 3. You're in that deep sleep. It happens mostly in children. It seems to be genetic. Also, sleep talking seems to be genetic as well if you do that. It's usually harmless. It's 20% of the 3 to 12-year-olds have at least one episode. This, it's also a myth that you can't wake a sleepwalker. Like, you can, they will be confused, of course, because they aren't conscious. They don't realize what they're doing. But if we're sleep deprived, we have an increased chance of these kind of things happening to us. So you might notice people doing it more when they're really tired. And then just another one that's not bolded in your text, but it's night terrors. This is something that generally happens in children. It seems a lot like a nightmare. Like the person might be screaming. They might sit up in bed. They're kind of like making words or screaming and crying. It almost seems like they're awake, but then they like lay back down or stop moving around and they're fine. If you ask them about it the next day, they don't even remember. They don't report having a nightmare. And it typically always happens at the same time. So it's about where it happens in the sleep cycle, about 2 to 3 hours into sleep in non-REM 3. It's really scary to watch, but they are not scared. They do not wake up having that nightmare experience. Night terrors. Okay, REM sleep behavior disorder. This is when normal sleep paralysis does not occur. Instead, the person is twitching or talking or even kicking or punching, often acting out their dream. So they're in that REM state of dreaming, but they're not paralyzed. Dreams. Okay, so what are dreams? They are sequences of images, emotions, and thoughts passing through a sleeper's mind. Notable for their hallucinatory imagery, and the dreamer usually accepts the content and later has trouble remembering it. Or you remember like little bits and pieces, right? We spend about 6 years of our life in dreams. 8 in 10 dreams have at least one negative event. Oh, I hate that for us. Most commonly, our dreams incorporate traces of what we are thinking about most or perseverating on or the previous day's activities. You dream every single night. You dream in REM. You just don't remember it. If you're not remembering your dreams, you're just not remembering them. It doesn't mean that you don't have them. Our two-track mind is monitoring our environment even while we're asleep. And that's why sounds and smells sometimes make their ways into our dreams, which is really cool. Okay, so Sigmund Freud, what did he say? He wrote a whole book, The Interpretation of Dreams, about what dreams are. And he believed, because his whole thing was unlocking the unconscious of our mind that drives our behavior. So he believed that dreams were one way that we can unlock those thoughts and feelings that we have, and they're so difficult for us to process consciously that we lock them into our unconscious, perhaps because society says they're bad or we believe they're not acceptable, and so we lock them away. And dreams are one way that we can figure them out. So he would interpret people's dreams. He said there was a manifest content. This is the remembered storyline. Oh, there's a purple monster chasing me and my teeth are falling out. And then there is the latent content. So what does that purple monster represent? Does it represent that final exam and the teeth falling out is your feeling of like lack of control over the situation? So the latent is the hidden or the true meaning, and the manifest, it's how that unconscious feeling is manifesting itself. It's the purple monster and the teeth falling out. Why do we dream? So is it wish fulfillment to satisfy our own wishes? That's what Freud said. We use our dreams to do those unconscious things that we can't otherwise do. Information processing, perhaps, where we're sifting, sorting, fixing, consolidating those days' experiences into our memory. Is that because that physiological function of developing and preserving the neural pathways, and it's just like what happens when we're like doing that neural cleanup? Is it neural activation? Just there's neural static going on while we're sleeping. And so our brain is like trying to make meaning of this random neural static. And so it comes to us in these like weird dreams. Or is it just part of cognitive development? No matter where scientists fall in this debate, all agree that REM sleep is really important. And it's been shown that if we don't get enough REM sleep, remember you need 4 to 6 sleep cycles in a night. If you don't get 4 to 6 sleep cycles in a night, if you don't get enough REM, you might experience what is known as REM rebound. This is the tendency for REM sleep to increase the following night. So perhaps one night you didn't get enough sleep, right? Remember how we said in the beginning, you spend more time in that deep sleep and less time in REM. And the longer you sleep, you're more in REM. So let's say you got to sleep late, you woke up early. So you spent some time in deep sleep, but you didn't get enough REM. The next night, you will have that REM rebound where you have an increase in REM. This is kind of telling us, and most mammals experience this, it's telling us that, okay, we can't just like not have it. Our brain needs it so bad that if we skip out on it, it like forces us to run through it more the next night. It's really important for information processing, for memory, and for learning. If you do not get enough REM, the next day, your hippocampus has a severe reduction in the ability to learn and remember. Some studies showing like 0, unable to learn and remember if you're getting a really poor amount of sleep. This is just a repeat. Okay, so takeaways. Remember, sleep deprivation affects everything: our mood, our appetite, our memory. It increases our errors. It decreases our immune system. Make sure you're familiar with the key characteristics of each of the sleep disorders I went through. Remember that getting a good night's sleep is the best medicine for almost anything that ails you. Get your REM sleep. If you don't, you're going to have REM rebound the next day. Remember the different theories about dreams and why we have them. And Freud says that our dreams are the road to the unconscious. There's the manifest, the purple monster, and there's the latent, the hidden true meaning of your dream. That sums up our mod for today, and I will see you in class.